ready to master the waves of medical device product development? Well, wax up your surfboard because you are listening to Inspired by Imua. And here is your medical device product development expert, that Hawaiian-hearted hostess who will help you hang 10, Meghan Alonso.
And aloha! You're listening to Inspired by Imua, where we help you master the waves of medical product development. Each week, we interview guests that educate, guide, and inspire to give you and your product the skills you need to hang 10. If this is your first time listening, Imua is spelled IMUA, and it's a Hawaiian word. It means to advance forward with passion despite rough waves. There are plenty of those in medical product development, so keep listening because we've got you covered. So, do you have a great idea for a product, or you've been working on technology a while and not sure how to commercialize? I have a virtual accelerator program for that, so you can learn everything that you need to know before you're in the room with investors. If you've heard of other accelerator programs, or if you've heard of iCore, this is really similar, but you can do it from anywhere at any time, and anyone can do this. So check it out. You can learn more about it. It's imua-services.com/IIPP. Again, that's imua-services.com/IIPP. So my guest today has had quite the journey in his life. He worked for HP years ago, early on, when microfluidic technology was first being adopted by the inkjet printers. Fast forward into the life science industry when microfluidics are really taking the world by storm. And my guest has been around this quite a bit and decided it was time to build his own product. So he went big. He went for a very, very novel detection system. And we're going to hear all about that, as well as his journey in his own company. So please help me welcome Mr. Lonnie Adelman of iAssay. Lonnie, are you ready to hang 10?
I am. I'm in San Diego, surf country.
All right.
Let's do it.
I know, I missed it there. So besides that little intro there, give us a few more details on your journey with iAssay, and let us know, I know you've had tons of awesome things happening, so let us know a few of those.
Well, Megan, I'll tell you, things are really starting to pop with iAssay. I just came back from a meeting in Lansing, Michigan called Connecting Michigan. That state is doing a tremendous job with health IT, conserving people's data, allowing it to be accessible with proper privacy. And they invited me to speak. They paid my expenses. I didn't get $20,000 to speak, but they did pay the expenses, which was great. And we were there because the health IT people were interested in new sources of data that can flow into the big data stream. So we told them about iAssay. We told them that we're going to be hitting home care first, where a nurse that sees patients will use the iAssay device to do blood testing for the patient right where they are. And then the data is going to go up into the cloud, and it's going to do things like populate health records. So we're in a pilot in Los Angeles right now, and we've already done end-to-end testing where the data from our system goes into the cloud of our partner, who's HealthNet Connect virtual systems in Wixom, Michigan. And so not too long ago, for the first time, we actually saw the data in a patient's health record. So we're now able to go end-to-end, do a finger stick, take the sample, do the test, send the data up to the cloud, and it goes right into that patient's health record. So in general, we're getting a lot more interest from investors. We've already got investments in place and more pending. We've got 2 or 3 deals that are potential right now that that could finish our seed round. Mm-hmm. And Gosh, what else is happening? We're talking with more content partners because our system is set up to use already existing point of care test cartridges that are in the market, that are already FDA cleared, and we adapt those to our platform. We look to third parties to do business to business deals so that we can adapt their cartridges. We have a plan for quality together, and we consume those cartridges for them in the home market, giving them more revenues. And the iAssay model is to get a click charge for every test that we run.
Yeah, that's great.
So it is. So that's a razor blade model. The cartridge partner makes a huge amount of money. Their gross profits are 80-90%. And what we're asking is fairly small, approximately 10%. So we haven't had any objections to that at all by anybody. So we have lots of good things happening on the content side, the investor side, and now we're starting to talk to more partners on the health IT side and working with HealthNet Connect directly.
Mm-hmm. And as you court investors, I know that's always a tricky part of business. So for you, what's been really valuable when you go to them and you talk with them and you're learning from them? What kind of feedback has been really valuable to shape your path forward and to be able to go out and talk with more effectively?
So the most important thing is to have what we call a minimally viable product, an MVP, a device where we actually have done some validation testing and we can demonstrate that to the investor. Showing that it's not vaporware is really important. When you go to most investors, if you don't have that, then most of them are not interested in going forward unless it's something that is just absolutely earth-shattering and they recognize it and they believe you can get to market. They may make exceptions, but by and large, you got to have something. You also have to have a really good presentation deck that includes pro forma P&L information and also comps that show how your company is valued based on valuations of other companies that have been purchased or have been evaluated by somebody else. So the investor wants to know, is there a yardstick that you're using to create your valuation that you're presenting to them? Mm-hmm. And they also want to know that there's a path towards liquidity, and they'd like that liquidity to be 3 to 5 years. So you have to put the story together to show them that that's possible. You're willing to do it. You're willing to get diluted, and you have a reasonable expectations. If you go in to see an investor and tell them that there's no competitors and that your company is currently worth $100 million, that meeting is about a 2-minute meeting.
Yeah. So you're at this stage, they're asking for pro formas and valuations. You're at this stage where you're talking to venture capital investors right now, right?
Actually, the most interest that we have is from angel investors. Okay. And many of them are what they call family offices. And in our case, family offices interested in social impact.
Yep.
Because we offer something to help to save people and to make them well faster. And different family offices have different areas of focus. So the ones that have an interest in healthcare, helping people, those are the ones that have the most interest. Although that said, we have an investor who is an MD pathologist who owned reference labs. And he actually understands the value of handling the data in the cloud. And that was actually what attracted him, the fact that we have a device whose data is conserved in the cloud and you put to work doing health records or helping to enable reimbursement for practitioners. So that's his thing. Of course, there's another investor we have that I've known for many, many years, and he invested because he knows everything that I've embarked on, I've succeeded at, and he wanted to make some money. Mm-hmm. So he invested. So venture capital investors are not as interested in us primarily because we don't have a need for $10 million. Venture capitalists, they have to go through the same due diligence, whether it's for 10 million or 1 million.
That's true. Yeah.
And so they're not as interested as angel investors. Not to say that we won't have a deal with a venture capitalist. We're in talks with one, but I have my doubts about closing with them.
Yeah.
Angel groups of angels that band together in 200 and 300, angels that do the due diligence within the group and then invest as a group. Those are the best possibilities for us.
Huh, that's interesting to hear. And it totally makes sense though, with the amount of time required. Back when I was in business development, it's kind of the same thing. The amount of time required to land a small job is the same as it is to land a big job. So you want to focus more of your efforts on those larger jobs, and it makes sense with investments too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's your value proposition with iAssay? And I know a lot of people tend to struggle with this, so I like to highlight this piece because I know you've got a good one and it's just to the point.
Yeah, our value proposition is we save the practitioner's company the money, among other things, the money that it takes to draw the vial of blood and then get the vial of blood to the hospital for further analysis. That right there, many times the nurse is responsible for also driving that blood to the hospital. And depending on the type of test, they sometimes have to do it immediately. They can't bank the blood till the end of the day. So they find themselves seeing a patient, driving to the hospital, and then going to see the next patient. If there's traffic, if it's congested, if it's the end of the day in a metro area or even a rural area where you have to drive 3 hours to a hospital, it's really a bad thing.
Yeah.
So we eliminate that delay, we eliminate that cost, we allow the nurse to be able to see more patients or to see patients and educate them further. And we allow the diagnosis to be essentially immediate because the test results are immediate. And that's really what our value proposition is.
Yeah, good. So what are some of the biggest challenges, or actually just one? So what's one of the biggest challenges you've had, and how have you overcome that?
Well, the biggest challenge that we have is money, by far.
That's a typical answer. A lot of people say that. Yeah.
Without the money, we can't do anything. Fortunately, we've been able to raise some money and start the ball rolling and get some people to help us. It's now us and not me, so that's helpful. Besides that, one of the big challenges for doing our testing, believe it or not, was getting a good source of human blood to do tests.
Yep.
Blood is considered a biohazard now for good reason. And
you guys needed fresh samples.
We need fresh samples, and we need fairly small amounts. So we don't need big amounts. So it's fairly easy to go and purchase a pint of blood for about $1,000 a pint. And the more specific we are about what we want, what data we want from that pint of blood, for example, concentration of cardiac markers. What's the concentration of NT-proBNP in that pint, so that when we do our testing, we can compare the measured concentration to what's in that pint of blood that was assayed by a lab instrument. That's $1,000, maybe more, and it's a pint, and we need like 100 microliters. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't afford $1,000. We didn't need it. And so finding sources of small quantities of blood was a real challenge. So it took probably 3, 4, 5 months to finally get to a source that we could afford that was in smaller quantities. That was a big problem. The second problem was then finding a lab that was licensed to be able to do blood testing. It's a big problem. You can get your own lab, and you could put all the quality control into place to handle the blood and pay for it and be paying for it whether you're doing the testing or not. And then You don't have a problem finding the place. But we don't test every day right now. We're testing maybe once a month, once every other month. So we did manage to find a place where we're able to go in there as needed and do our blood testing and then leave. And they take care of all of the incinerating anything that touched the blood and so forth. And you have to go through training with them so that you handle everything properly. But it took a while.
Yeah. And this is not for clinical trial purposes. This is for validation. Hey, is the assay working? Is it comparable to the assay that's on the market, right?
That's what we've been doing so far.
Yeah.
We will be going into clinical trials, and that's a similar challenge. But now at least we've got a place to do the testing. We've got access to blood samples now. And so we could do the clinical trial work right in the lab that we found.
Mm-hmm. Good. So the startup journey is always rough, and especially when you're dealing with the challenge of not having money and getting the investments, you need to do something in the meantime to just sustain your everyday living expenses. So how have you been able to do that?
Well, in multiple ways. First of all, we cut way back on our expenses in the household and also in the business. We do the minimum that we need in both cases that requires payments. Mm-hmm. And then my wife and I have expended a fair amount from our savings. That usually scares the daylights out of people. People are used to getting a paycheck, and if they're not getting the paycheck anymore, and you have to start spending savings, it takes a lot of faith and what you're trying to accomplish in the business to do that. So we've used savings. I've also done some contract consulting with companies and brought some money in that way. That's primarily how we've sustained ourselves. I've not gotten a paycheck from a company by design since 2012. Mm-hmm. So that in itself is a pretty big investment.
Yeah. I actually talked with an investor once, and he said, I don't invest in any company that hasn't relied on personal savings. And his point behind that was that he's got to see that who he's investing in is confident enough to invest in their own product. If they're willing to invest in it and they see, hey, I have faith in myself, I can do this. It's really scary, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Then that was kind of the first weeding out process for this investor. I thought that was interesting.
What they really want is they want to know you have skin in the game and you have something to lose. Yep. That's really what they want. They want to make sure that you're motivated enough to make money and get your money back. And if you have nothing to lose, they're not interested.
Yeah. So what's the best piece of advice you could give someone that's just starting out with their own company, or they're thinking about doing this?
Well, I guess to start off with, I suppose that people should keep their day job if they can, and without jeopardizing it, at least start setting up the underpinnings for their business off hours, not on the boss's hours. First of all, I don't think that people ought to be doing that, although I've seen it done many times. I watched a guy build his business for 5 years. Working at Hewlett Packard. I think he spent, out of the 8 hours a day, I think he spent 7 building his own business inside. And his boss knew about it, didn't do anything about it. And so I don't recommend that. I don't admire that kind of behavior. So do it off hours, plus the fact you may have some agreements with your employer where if you start developing your business while you're working for that employer, they may end up owning it. And you may not think so, but you need to take a look at the agreements you sign. You may find out that they do own it.
You're right. Yeah.
So don't do it. Keep it separate. Use your own phone whenever you're making calls for your business. Do not use the company IT system for any of your business. Now, maybe I'm conservative, but I always believed in keeping those lives separate. I had another business while I was working at Hewlett Packard, and they knew about it. I disclosed it.
Yep.
It wasn't competing at all, but I felt the need to disclose it since they were my employer. And I didn't do anything on the company's IT system or on their phones that was related to that business. In fact, it's the reason why I bought a smartphone. I did not want to use any of their IT. I didn't even want to use their domain. I just used the phone data system for all of my emails that was related to work.
Yeah.
So I would start off that way, and I would be very sure, as sure as you could be, that this new business had legs, that it could actually work. And if you have a spouse, I would get buy-in from your spouse. Make sure that they know what you're getting the two of you into, and make sure they're in agreement, because there's a lot of surprises and a lot of things that aren't surprises that are crazy, like draining your savings account. And you need to be of a single mind. And then third, you need to really want this business to take off. Right below your family is that business. That's how badly you want to do it. And no matter what people tell you about your business not succeeding, and here's the reasons why, if you really believe it, after listening to them, just ignore what they're saying and keep going. Most people will tell you that you can't do what you want to do, and they'll give you 10 reasons why. And if you're sure about what you're doing, you need to put blinders on and stick earplugs in and move ahead. And it was just probably a year ago, somebody who was helping the company sort of gave up. After about a year, they gave up. They said, I can't put any more time into this. And last year, I saw him, and he says, you did this? It works? You've raised money? He said, I can't believe this. He said, I never thought it would work. I never thought it would happen. Because sometimes the horizon for businesses to take off takes a lot longer than mere humans can handle.
Oh, yeah. It's hard.
A lot of people think they can get a business up and running in 6 months. And, there are people who do that. Most don't.
Usually not these type of businesses, though. I mean, you're building a regulated product. So there's no way.
Well, even other businesses that are not as sophisticated as this one. Take a restaurant business. Someone decides, and even if they're a good cook, they start a restaurant business, and most of those restaurants are out of business in 6 months.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they didn't know how to scale up. They didn't know what service meant. They didn't know what the customer really wanted. It took longer than they thought for people to start coming in so they get to break even. Business is more difficult than meets the eye, and you have to be ready for that challenge. You really have to want it really badly, and you have to be single-minded, and you have to go for it until you believe that it's really not going to work, or you've run out of money and you can't. I've run out of money and I can't get up. So you run out of money and you can't, and you just can't keep going. And you need to make a living, and it requires you to go back to work full time. Then I've seen people shelf a project and then come back to it in 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
And keep working on it after they raise some more money. So those are my comments on that.
Good. Yeah, I think that's an excellent overview. And you got into some really good points that, some people don't necessarily talk about, and kind of hinted at, hey, this is just as much part of your family as it is your business. And it can be really difficult, and your family has to be supportive as well. And then the whole mindset too, whether you call it mindset or faith or just hanging in there, sticking power, to be able to be mentally tough and just get through those hard times. So speaking of that, what do you do to keep yourself motivated when all of this is happening and it's just a grind every day, every week, every month, every year, and it's just taxing? What is it that keeps you going?
The need to win. I'm extremely competitive. I've always been very competitive. And some people say it's just a game. It doesn't matter. It's not serious. I don't believe there's anything that I've embarked upon that I didn't feel the extreme need to win. And so what motivates me is when we're executing our plan and we finish a stage successfully because we've gotten what we wanted. That motivates me to move through the next stage. The possibility of closing a deal that helps us meet plan is enticing. It's, I don't even know how to explain it exactly.
I understand it because I've been in that, and at least in sales, you get the same excited feeling.
You sign the deal. This is the deal you've been going for. It's something you really need. And then you sign it and it's euphoric. And it motivates me to move to the next step. Now, interestingly, I am in this for the money. I do want to make a lot of money, more money than I've ever made before. But I don't think about that every day. Thinking about how much money I'm going to make every day is something that just never occurs to me because I'm too busy looking for the win. And I believe when we get the win, the money's going to come. So I sort of don't have to worry about it. But there is looking at the bank accounts, and it's somewhat motivating to say someday we can do more things because we'll have more money. But that's not at the top of my list. And I think if you've interviewed other entrepreneurs, if you interview some more, I think you would find that probably 8 or 9 out of 10 of the entrepreneurs who are looking to build a business now, and maybe who've already built a business before, like me, they'll tell you that the money isn't the big thing that drives them.
Yeah. Oh, I actually haven't heard anyone say that. It's always in the back of their mind, yes, and they're hoping for that, but that's not the reason that they're in business.
Yeah, for me, my reason is I know that once we get to the marketplace, we're going to save people. And just like a doctor who, like Patrick Soon-Siong, I don't know if you've heard of him, he started an initiative called Cancer Moonshot with the goal of eradicating cancer by some crazy date like 2020. I don't know if he'll make it or not, but he is the richest physician in the United States. He's a billionaire, but he's invented cancer drugs that save people. So there's nothing wrong with saving people and making a lot of money at the same time. And that's sort of where I'm at.
Exactly.
With the emphasis on the saving people. I mean, if you can tell a patient's condition in 3 to 5 minutes, then you're going to save people.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on today. You had great insight, and I really think all of this is valuable for people to listen to and get accustomed to the industry. And of course, you've highlighted all the great things that iAssay is up to, and wish you luck the rest of your journey.
Thank you very much, Megan. Great talking to you.
Good to talk with you too.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging with us till the end. It was great to hear of all of Lonnie's golden nuggets that he had for us. And I hope that's just inspired you to keep going. The road is not easy all the time. So you have to just get through it and take risks in order to succeed. So speaking of succeeding, if you are in the midst of product development and you just can't seem to land that investor, or you're just overwhelmed with not even knowing where to start, I've got a great solution to that. So I have a virtual accelerator program. You can check it out, learn more about it at imua-services.com/IIPP. Hope to see you over there. And until the next episode, Imua.
Mahalo for joining us. If you're new to riding the waves of medical device product development, or if you've been in development for a while already, Inspired by Imua is here to surf with you. Want to be a master of the waves? Text HANG10, that's HANGTEN, to 44222. We'll send you the most common wipeouts companies make in product development so you can avoid them and reach master wave status. Again, that's HANG10 to 44222. We publish a new episode every Tuesday, so catch us at inspiredbyimua.com. Imua!